Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. There's relief for home buyers as major banks keep their best lending rate on hold. Hong Kong says hello to the world with 500,000 free air tickets. And China hits out after Manila gives the United States access to more military bases in the Philippines. Major banks in Hong Kong are keeping their prime rate unchanged, despite another rate hike by the Monetary Authority and the U.S. Federal Reserve. But Hong Kong's de facto central bank warned against hopes that the upward rate cycle has ended.
In a surprise move, major local banks are keeping their best lending rate unchanged, although the Hong Kong Monetary Authority raised its base rate by 25 basis points. The city's de facto central bank acted just hours after the U.S. Federal Reserve lifted its benchmark rate by the same margin. The prime rate for Hong Kong's largest bank HSBC and other lenders remains at 5.625%. providing some much-needed respite for homeowners. In September, November, and December, local banks responded to a U.S. rate hike by raising their best lending rate. The latest increase in the federal funds rate was tapered to 25 basis points, in what could be a signal that the tightening policy is coming to an end.
Shifting to a slower pace will better allow the committee to assess the economy's progress toward our goals, as we determine the extent of future increases that will be required to attain a sufficiently restrictive stance. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting, taking into account the totality of incoming data and their implications for the outlook for economic activity and inflation.
The Hong Kong Monetary Authority's base rate, now at 5%, is the highest in 15 years. Those with mortgages were given another warning.
The rate hike cycle in the U.S. has not yet been completed. The Hong Kong dollar interbank rates might remain at elevated levels for some time, so the public should be prepared for the likelihood that banks' lending rates may go further higher.
But Yi insisted those who took out home loans in recent years had passed stringent credit checks and income requirements, and bad debts were extremely rare.
The government is giving out at least 500,000 air tickets to overseas visitors in a bid to lure 1.5 million tourists. Local residents are also included in the Hello Hong Kong campaign, which opens up the city to the rest of the world. Maisie Mock reports.
Hello Hong Kong is a campaign aimed at attracting tourists.
There will be no isolation, no quarantine, and no restriction on experiencing our great wine and dine scenes. Indeed, this is the perfect time for tourists, business travelers, and investors from near and far to come and say, hello, Hong Kong.
Around 500,000 free air tickets sponsored by the Airport Authority are on offer. Tickets for flights on Cathay Pacific, HK Express, and Hong Kong Airlines will be given out from next month for 6 months through lucky draws and other promotional offers. People from Southeast Asia will be in the first batch for free tickets. The Airport Authority expects the giveaway to attract over 1.5 million visitors because ticket holders are likely to bring along their family and friends. Another 80,000 tickets will be reserved for Hong Kong residents.
Perhaps this is also a way to let Hong Kong people share the same joy that this campaign would bring about. Airlines obviously would be able to work it out to make sure then that they would have the capacity to meet the demand from these free tickets. 6 months, we feel then should be sufficient for them to be able to distribute those tickets in a orderly manner.
The Tourism Board is planning to spend at least $100 million on promotion. It will also give out cash vouchers for shops and restaurants to visitors who stay for 90 days or less. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The chief executive is also walking the talk, starting with the trip to the Middle East to promote the SAR and secure business deals. John Lee will set off for Saudi Arabia on Saturday for a week-long tour, which includes stops in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. It will be Lee's second business trip as chief executive, having attended the APEC summit in Bangkok last November. He will lead a delegation of more than 30 government ministers and representatives from various industries. The group will meet local political and business leaders, as well as visit enterprises and attend forums. Hong Kong Disneyland says it is ready to work in tandem with the government to welcome back tourists.
We at Hong Kong Disneyland could not be more excited to be a part of this citywide effort. We've already hosted about 20 groups and influencers from media and from around the world, including the mainland China, Singapore, Philippines, and others, all with fantastic and positive feedback. And we've seen that our inbound guests have missed us so much. Once they heard that Hong Kong's COVID measures were being relaxed, the first thing they wanted to do was plan the trip to Hong Kong Disneyland.
A recruitment drive was conducted at the park this afternoon to fill out about 600 vacancies, most of which involve frontline operations. Many interviewees have expressed confidence in the tourism sector, which took a hard hit in the past 3 years. 3 people were granted bail when they appeared in Kowloon City Magistracy this morning in connection with an accident during a concert by the boy band Mirror. A giant TV screen fell during the performance at the Hong Kong Coliseum in July last year and seriously injured a dancer. 2 project managers and a technical coordinator from the concert contractor, Engineering Impact, were charged with conspiracy to defraud. Yeung, Joseph Leung, and Lam Chi Wah were accused of lying about the weight of the equipment. They were released on bail of $10,000 each, and the case was adjourned to March the 30th. A prime site in Kai Tak earmarked for temporary public housing could be released after 7 years, according to the Development Bureau. Housing Chief Winnie Ho also defended the project on Olympic Avenue, saying it will not hinder the area's development into a central business district.
Long-term development of the Central Business District 2, CBD 2, doesn't change. Each piece of land has its long-term use, and which is already laid down. So we are just utilizing the short-term possibility to help those people in need. There are so many people living in subdivided flats. They are in very poor living conditions.
The Philippines is allowing the United States to use 4 more military bases. The move has angered China, which accused the U.S. of endangering regional peace. Sachin Kafir reports.
Following recent war games with South Korea, the U.S. military is expanding its footprint in the Asia-Pacific region after gaining access to 4 more military bases in the Philippines. The bases are believed to be in the northern Philippines, giving the United States a strategic advantage to monitor the South China Sea and Taiwan.
We discussed concrete actions to address destabilizing activities in the waters surrounding the Philippines, including the West Philippine Sea. And we remain committed to strengthening our mutual capacities to resist armed attack. That's just part of our efforts to modernize our alliance. And these efforts are especially important as the People's Republic of China continues to advance its illegitimate claims in the West Philippine Sea.
Under the agreement with Manila, the U.S. will be able to use the Philippine bases for joint training and to develop military infrastructure and other defense-related facilities.
It seems to me that the future of the Philippines, and for that matter the Asia Pacific, will always have to involve the United States simply because those partnerships are so strong.
But China has warned its regional neighbors not to be used by the U.S. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning accused Washington of clinging to a Cold War mentality warning that the accord with Manila escalates tensions and threatens regional peace. Increased access to military bases in the Philippines enables the U.S. military to hem in China from Japan and South Korea in the north to Australia in the south. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
Trade unions in Britain have warned of more stoppages after 500,000 disgruntled workers took part in the country's biggest strike in a decade. Those who downed tools on what was billed as Walkout Wednesday included 300,000 teachers.
Everyone regrets the fact that children and their parents have been disrupted and caused difficulty by this strike. But it is necessary because things cannot carry on as they are in education at the moment. We cannot carry on with a chronic teacher shortage, which means that millions of children are every day being taught by teachers not teaching in their subject area, being taught repeatedly by supply teachers.
The teachers were joined in a nationwide strike by 100,000 civil servants from several government departments. Rail services came to a virtual halt as workers demanded more pay to combat runaway prices. Next week, the health service is expected to be paralyzed when nurses and hospital staff go on strike. The city's largest business chamber has joined calls to dial back punitive stamp duties aimed at curbing property speculation.
When this double stamp duty was introduced, it was on the premise that because the market is overheated, we need to control it. And now, is this same situation still valid? This purpose, is it still a valid condition? And therefore, we are asking, we don't have a timetable for the government, but we are talking, we are suggesting the government to start studying, how to phase out, this double stamp duty. Perhaps they can do in phases, for people who's changing, improving their home condition, maybe for local people, and then, move on to overseas investors and so forth.
An early rally on the Hong Kong stock market fizzled out after mainland investors continued to trim their portfolios. The Hang Seng Index had advanced 1.1% on optimism of an end to aggressive U.S. interest rate hikes. But the benchmark ended the day down 0.5 percentage point after mainland funds offloaded shares. Country Garden was among the losers, dropping 4%. Tech heavyweights also took a hit, with Alibaba losing almost 1%, while Tencent gave up 0.5%. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down by 113 points. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent lost $2. The tracker fund was down 10 cents, while Meituan was down by $3.50. BYD Company gained $2, while Ping An Insurance lost $1.25. The forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro's at 8.62, the pound sterling 9.65, while the Australian dollar at 5.58. And finally, in Europe, the London FTSE is currently trading 37 points up. Australia's $5 banknote is set for a radical change. Unlike its late mother, Britain's King Charles will not appear on the note.
The monarch will still be on the coins, but the $5 note will say more about our history and our heritage and our country. The proposal from the Reserve Bank is that the $5 note would contain a First Nations design rather than a person, a design.
The portrait of Queen Elizabeth is featured on $5 notes, but times are changing, with many Australians favour dropping the British monarch as its head of state. A campaign to give Indigenous Australians and their culture more prominence is also gaining momentum. On to the weather now. Cloudy tomorrow, but you'll also see sunny intervals and rain patches. Temperatures will range between 16 and 20 degrees. Chance of light rain over the weekend. That's our main news for Thursday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good night.